everybody, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network. And let me tell you, these last 2 months have been a doozy. We are so inundated with a lot of information, some of it useful, some of it helpful, some of it is useless, but no matter how you perceive what it is that you're hearing and listening to, you do find times that your brain just cannot figure out its own access point. Today, we're going to be joined by our resident experts, Dr. Tierney, our Level Up Life Coach, Aaron Bishop, author, speaker, leader extraordinaire, Katrina Smith, our resident educational expert, and all things related to parenting and helping families get their lives together. And then today, we also have a special guest, Dr. Sherry Riley, who is the author of Exponential Living and the founder of the Power Broker Academy. Today, when we dive into our conversation, get your pen, pad, paper, digital devices together because we're about to jump in. Hey, y'all.
Hey, Dr. J.
Good morning.
Let me tell you, I am so happy that y'all are here for this conversation today. You know, the last few weeks we've been talking about how to be bold and balanced. We've looked at how to protect your peace. And today in Protecting Your Peace Part 2, I want to kind of do a round robin on what are some of the ways that people can figure out how to manage all of the foolishness that is around us on social media, conversations that are coming from our family members, all the, I'm going to use this word, asinine things that are coming from cubicles in people's workspaces. There's just so much information going on. And oftentimes I wonder, do people really know how to manage all of the things that are bombarding them on a day-to-day basis? I'm going to run to Dr. Tierney first because, you know, Dr. T, I don't know how people do it. What is your perspective about people finding their access point to deal with all these things that come into their lives?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to really take stock of is ask ourselves the question, is it ours to manage? Sometimes we are trying to manage things that's not ours to manage. And so we have to blame ourselves as to why we feeling all stressed out and overwhelmed because that need don't have your name on it. You know, what they saying on their platform about what they believe is not your business. And so sometimes we're paying too much attention and giving too much focus to things that should really just be in our peripheral, things that don't have nothing to do with us. So that could be your access point, you know, right there, just making sure that you're managing what is yours to manage and not the things trying to manage what's not yours to manage.
I think that's an interesting perspective because you don't always have to put your hands on everything. And as you said, everything is not your business. Dr. Bishop, what does that look like? And I know I always ask you this from a male perspective, but you're a married man with a son and all of those things. And every family perceives things differently. And that's where varying views and opinions come into place. What does that look like?
Hey, let them think what they think, you know, and the truth of this principle. I stumbled across a woman who was studying her own life because that's what you need to do first. You study everybody else. When the last time you studied yourself? And when she began to live in this theory called let them, it was allowing her to release the attention that she was giving to so many other people instead of paying attention to herself. And once we free ourselves or emancipate ourselves from paying attention to everybody, we have better attention management. If you have attention management, then you'll let them do them and you'll do yourself. You do what you can do for yourself. And so in life, I have learned to do that, right? Because I don't go where I'm just tolerated. I go where I'm appreciated. And that's what my mother taught me. My mother always taught me, she said, baby, don't go where people won't welcome you. Go where you are welcome. And then when you're there, don't wear out your own welcome. Going into those spaces where you have not necessarily been invited to a pity party because you refuse to accept that invitation, go where you are invited so that you can feel appreciated. Things like this helps you have attention management, and that's important.
Attention management. You know, I might have okay, I'm going to say it. I'm going to be fully transparent. I might have that attention management deficit because my brain gets overwhelmed. at times. And, many people are checking out of social media. They're like, I don't want to be on Facebook. TikTok is here or there. I don't want to be on X and all of Instagram and all those other platforms. And social media has a way, at times of just sucking us in and drawing us deeper and deeper into this web of foolery. Katrina, how do you stay away from foolery, and what type of perspectives can you give people on taking care of their own business and not other people's business?
Well, there's a popular saying out there that says, drink your water and mind your business. And we need to practice that more often than not. Drink your water and mind your business, right? So when we think about the foolery, you sometimes indulge in that. You have to be okay with being okay by yourself. How many times are you able to walk away and say, I'm okay if no one calls me, if no one visits me, I'm okay with being by myself and being happy with the person that I am. And that, for a lot of us, we have to do. We have to start meditating more, maybe journaling more, maybe being in prayer, being in a regimen of prayer consistently. But we have to start taking things into account to protect our own peace. Whether it's a quiet morning with a sip of coffee, whether it's time you take to just be by yourself. But drink your water and mind your business.
That is not easy to do. As you were talking, I literally thought about the saying FOMO. There are so many people who have this fear of missing out. Like if they're not the center of attention, if they're not the main attraction, if they're not invited to this, that, and the other, they literally lose their mind because they have to always be in the mix. We're going to talk to Dr. Riley more in-depthly later on in the show. But Dr. Sherry, help the people, because oftentimes they're everywhere and nowhere at the same time, because you can't always be present at everything. Even though you're physically there, you're sometimes mentally just checked out.
Yes. And one of the key things that I talk about all the time with my clients is your presence is not enough. You have to be present. And the challenge with FOMO is you're always somewhere else and you're never where you are at that very moment, which completely robs us of our peace. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be very intentional about what do we need to do to own our joy, especially in these times. And one of the keys that I always say is we got to remember to laugh. I mean, the reality is when you think about everyone that we interact with, when you think about how social media can suck the life out of us, when we think about the distractions and all the information that that we can receive and have to take in every day, the reality is we have to remember to laugh. We have to remember to laugh. And a lot of times you'll get the pushback, but nothing's funny. But that's not true, because the reality is when you are present, there's so much joy in that very moment, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your children, whether it's by yourself, whether it's with your family. But the reality is when we get so consumed with all the distractions around us, it robs us of the joy of being present in that very moment. And with that, when you look at all the distractions, if you sit down and take a list of all the negative things happening, you're eventually going to stop. But if you sit down and write down all the positive things happening, you have to eventually stop yourself. So we have to be very intentional about our joy, and we have to be intentional about laughing.
I want to jump to Dr. Tierney for a second, because joy killers are everywhere. And oftentimes we love the people, we like being around them. And if we're not around them, we feel some type of way. It's like this love-hate relationship with the relationships we have with other people. What do joy killers look like? And how do we just kind of excise them, if you will, from our space?
That's a broad one, because joy killers can take on any number of shapes, sizes, looks, just depending on the individual. Right. Depending on who you are, what kind of, grinds your gears, as some people say, or kills your joy may look different. So what may be a joy killer for me may not be a joy killer for you. Here again, just like I always say, we have to do our internal work so that we can look at ourselves to say, not just what kills my joy, but ask the question, why? Why is that a joy killer? Because here again, a lot of us, we're giving way too much power to so many people, places, things, and situations that do not deserve that power. So if that thing is killing your joy, if that person is killing your joy, if that place is killing your joy, instead of just making it about a them, again, this is why I say I don't like boundaries, because boundaries have us doing this. We should be looking at us and say, or excuse me, not boundaries, barriers. Get it right, sugar. Barriers, boundaries, barriers, boundaries, barriers. Okay. But this is why I don't like barriers, because it makes us look at them. Why is this killing me? What they did and no, sugar, why are you giving that power that it could kill your joy? You was having a good day until that thing happened. Why did you let it steal your joy? And then you do the work to get back to you to say, no, this is my joy. You can't have it. The joy that the Lord gave me, the world can't take it away. The word didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. There is power in that and that understanding. So when we're talking about what steals our joy, we gotta, why did I give my joy away? Did they steal it or did I give it away? And then have that conversation with yourself and then deal with whatever answer you give. Don't just, oh, well, what did, and then move on. No. Let's answer that question, sugar. And then once you know the answer to that, let's do something about it. When you know better, you do better. So that then you won't be walking around saying, oh, they stole my joy. No, I gave my joy away. And here is how I'm not going to do it again. That's the conversation we should be having.
That is a conversation. Aaron Bishop, what say ye, sir?
Listen, man, it's hard to follow up Dr. T, but she's always on point. You know how they say Jesus may not come when you want him to, but he's on time. Dr. Terry gonna always be on time. Dr. T is always gonna be on time. But she's right. That point of did they steal it or did you just give it away? And it's back to what I said. We need to pay attention to what we are giving our attention to. Time management and attention management, you don't have time for it today. That's why you need to do what I tell everybody, compartmentalize. There are things in life we have to understand where either we are spaghettis or waffles. What spaghettis are is they want all of their world mixed up. That's how you eat spaghetti. You don't eat the pasta over here, marinara sauce over here, and the meatballs over here. It all goes together. And to those who from the South, sometimes you bake it with cheese. Okay. You add a little extra to it. And that's how life can be. It could be extra. It could be too much. It could be messy, because that's what spaghetti is. But if you're waffles, right, you know how to put things in their box and put them in their place, because every waffle has those compartments where what I do over here doesn't necessarily drip over to there. And so when I deal with people, I deal with them in their own space. But if they start invading my space, then it's going to waffle everything that I'm supposed to be paying attention to. Like I need to make sure as a husband, I'm paying attention to my wife more than I'm paying to what's outside. Like I need to make sure I be the best father I can be, because I'm raising a teenager who can be so easily influenced by peer pressure and other things of our culture. So keep the main thing, right? Control what you can control, but most of all, pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Right. And then value and make sure you put your priorities in order. And therefore you'll do what Dr. Tierney said. You'll make sure that you're not going out here just doing everything that don't make sense because you're not standing on your business.
I like that. When we come back after the break, as you can tell, life is about a series of choices. And we're going to talk to Dr. Sherry Riley about that very thing. Not only protecting your peace, but how do you make your peace work for you? We'll be back in a moment after the break.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of Black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And I hope that y'all were paying attention. I know you got notes and you've certainly, been on social media, sharing the things that you're learning. Dr. Sherry Riley, lady, let's have a conversation, because not only with what we've heard today, you are in this space on a regular basis. Your book on exponential living, your academy, the Power Broker Academy, you're really out there teaching, guiding, leading, preparing people, for the future based on life experience. Can you share with us a little bit about what you've been up to and how the work that you do can help people move their lives forward?
Yeah, so how I got here really focused on how to empower high performers to live in the power of peace, clarity, and courage is because I crashed and burned. I reached the highest levels of success in my industry, working at LaFace Records, owning a strategic consulting firm. I had all the things that I ever desired, the access, the influence, income, and I was miserable. And I went on this journey to discover, how do I stop spending 100% of my time on 10% of who I was? And what I found, that gap, was the peace, the clarity, and the courage. That most of us believe that if we pursue the career, if we pursue the mate, if we pursue the family, if we pursue these external things, somehow by osmosis, we're going to get the peace. And the most miserable people in the world are the ones who have reached a high level of success and realize the money and the access won't fulfill them, that they're still missing the most important piece, which is that peace. And so the work that we do is really working with high performers who are at a place of either transition, burnout, or they've reached this level of success and now they're realizing, I'm not fulfilled. And the challenge with that is, when you've reached a high level of success, when you've checked all the boxes, where do you go? Where do you go and tell somebody, I'm unhappy? And they're looking at you, but you got the title, you got the money, you travel. How do you go to them and say, but I don't know who I am, and I can't answer the question, what's next? And especially with what's going on in our marketplace right now, it's very intentional on why we have to focus on answering that question, what do I want and what's next? Because most of the time you can answer what you want for your children, you can answer what you want for your company, you can answer what you want in your career, but you can't really answer the question, what do I want? And that's why Power Broker Academy was birthed, is to really take a small cohort of high performers who've reached their level of success and really give them a safe place to take the mask off, be able to really spend that time with a weekend summit and focus on, what do I want? And then the unique difference is, and then have the accountability after that retreat to then spend that monthly mastermind with that small cohort, have the accountability, have the plan, and really make the difference in your own life so that you can then impact those around us. But one of the greatest challenges, Jacquie, is that we get to that level of success and we can't answer the question, what's next? And we're forced into transition, we're forced into capacity challenges, and we're forced into places and spaces where we realize we're on autopilot and we're not fulfilled.
I like what you said about that, because autopilot is often where people spend the majority of their time. It's rote. I get up in the morning, I know what to do. It's the same routine day after day. And they never really look for options, to be able to move their lives forward. And one of the things that you said was being able to find yourself. What ways can people find themselves in the midst of chaos. And it's not just about what's happening in the world, but there's chaos in our head, there's chaos in our homes. There are unresolved issues that we have, and they often plague us and paralyze us from being able to move forward. What are a few tips that you can give people to say, here's where you can begin to start searching for you and then moving yourself in that direction of fulfillment?
Yes, one of the first things that we have to do is stop saying, I don't know. The reality is that we do know. Now, we may not be ready to deal with the changes. We may not be ready to make the adjustments that we have to make. We honestly may not be ready to own our own truth. But we have to stop saying, I don't know. And think about it. Most of the time when you talk to somebody, they'll go, hey, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is happening. And here's what I've been working on. Here's what I need. Here's what I need to work out. Here's where my gaps are. But girl, I don't know. And the reality is, sandwiched between those two I don't knows is everything you do know. So we have to stop saying I don't know and just focus on what we do know, because you may not know everything, but you know something. And then the second thing we have to do is we have to give ourselves permission, ... Give ourselves permission, ... Meaning give ourselves permission to get help. Give ourselves permission to take a nap, because some of us are just tired. Give ourselves permission, ... Some of us who are in this transition with all that's going on in the economy, you've been wanting to go back to school. You've been wanting to make some differences in your life. Give yourself permission to take that risk. Give yourself permission to invest in yourself. Give yourself permission to stop being available for everybody else, and you're the only person that you really need to be available for right now. And so the second thing is we got to give ourselves permission. And then the third thing is the first principle in my book, Exponential Living, is we have to live in our power. We have to live in our power. And what that means is we got to get clear on our perspective. What is the vision that you want at this point in your life? Because many of us have just, again, been on autopilot, and we've been checking the boxes, and we haven't just taken an audit of what do we want moving forward? What is the vision you have for your life at this point? We have to take ownership. And what that looks like is we have to really be intentional about focusing on what's most important. As has been shared already, there's so many things that are important, but what's most important? And then we got to put together a plan. We got to have the wisdom to decide what are the next most important 3 steps. There's 100 things you could do, but what are the 3 most important steps? And then we have to get engaged. As I shared earlier, we have to stop just being under thinking that our presence is enough, and we have to get present. We have to be very intentional about what we're focusing on right now. And then we get the reward. And the reward comes from consistency. And the challenge to our consistency is the triggers. What are the triggers that are keeping you from being consistent? Whether it's in exercise, whether it's in eating healthy, whether it's in how you stay committed to your personal growth. What are the triggers? And I'll say this one thing. The triggers can be so very subtle. It could be a conversation with a family member, or it could be something as extreme as social media that makes you have that FOMO that we talked about earlier. But when we commit to living in our power, getting clear on our perspective, taking ownership of what's most important, having the wisdom to focus in on the 3 most important things, getting engaged so that we stay present, and then getting to that place of reward when we identify the triggers that keep us from being consistent. Those are the 3 things: the stop saying I don't know, being committed to giving yourself permission, ... and then taking that real commitment of living in your power.
Living in your power isn't always an easy thing to do, but there are times when people have to figure out that structure. We talked earlier about how people give their power away. I want to invite Dr. Tierney in because as I was reading her book, Level Up, Living on Levels That God Intended, oftentimes faith plays a very big part on how you view the things that are happening in your life. Dr. T, jump on in here for a second, because how do you live on levels that God intended? Because hearing both of you talk and understanding your stories, people get paralyzed when they try to make strategic moves because there's so much going on in their head. They don't know how to quiet the noise. Help us in that regard, understanding how to get to a space of leveling up and quieting the noise.
Yeah. It really comes back to exactly what you just said. How do we live on levels that God intended is to quiet the noise and tune our frequency to really hear from God. Okay, let's be clear. If we're talking about peace and protecting our peace, peace is a person. Peace is God. That's Jesus. He's the Prince of Peace. So we can't protect something that we're not connected to. We have to make sure that we are connected to him. We have to make sure that we're leaning into God. And oftentimes what we do is we lean into our fear. We lean into what we see on social media. We lean into what we think. We lean on our own understanding, and any of us that's been walking with God for any amount of time, we know that most of the time when he says stuff, we don't understand it. He gonna say something it's like, what, God, what you just say? You sure? I ain't hear that. Let me wait, what? And so if we are more committed to our understanding, if we're more committed to our thoughts, our ideas, our dreams, our goals, and we're not listening to him, that's how we miss the levels that he intended for us to be on. You can look at any Bible story and God does not take us from point A to point B. We're going to go point A, point 1, point 17, point valley, point over here, point over there. And then by the time the whale spits us out, we're right where we were supposed to be in the first place. So to have peace in that process, to have peace when it doesn't make sense, you have to be willing to tune your frequency to God and know that he's going to get you to the level that he designed for you, the level that you are equipped to handle. The level that you have the characteristics, the gifts, the talents to be on. But when we're looking at the levels that other people are on, going, "Ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want to do that like that," and we missing it, sugars. And so that's really the main thing is we have to get quiet enough. We have to tune our frequency. We have to lean into the Prince of Peace in order for us to really hear clearly our instructions, our direction, and what it is that we're supposed to be, and understand that we're gonna end up there every time as long as we stay in that posture, in that position.
Both of you are spot on as it relates to how we get to where we need to be and what it looks like when we get there, because sometimes people are directionless. We come back after the break. We're going to dive in just a little bit deeper to what it means to really find your lane. Okay, I didn't say stay in your lane, but you got to get a lane first. When we come back after the break, is there peace in the lane you're supposed to occupy?
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, oftentimes there are ways in which you can navigate your life, while at the same time, there are ways that you can screw up your life. And oftentimes it means being connected not only to the source. And for those of you who are faith-based who watch us, you know that we are faith-based people. And that's the perspective that we come from when we're pursuing the lanes that we're meant to live in. I want to invite Eric Bishop in for just a moment to talk to us about that lane. How do you find your lane, Bishop? Because you were on the people a few minutes ago about being over here and over there and not minding their own business. But sometimes it's hard for people to stay in their lane, let alone find a lane. First, how do you get a lane? And then second, how do you stay in that lane to find your peace, your prosperity, and your perspective?
Ooh, it's so much to unpack. I'm over here listening to my co-residents, experts about, their own take or perspective on finding peace, right? And I got to unpack a lot here because I still think it goes back to drinking your water and minding your business. And see, you have to mind the business that pays you. And the pay is how do you pay attention to what you're paying attention to. If you are paying attention to what's in your lane, then you won't swerve over to anyone else's lane and cause accidents in the life that we're living. And that's the navigation, right? I got a child who just recently got his first set of keys to his first car. And you know what he pulled out? His cell phone. Now, I've been driving him to school all his life, been telling him, son, pay attention to the terrain, pay attention to your environment, pay attention to your community. So you will know these roads, you'll know these pathways, you'll know these streets. And you know what he did? Went to what he is familiar with. He went to the phone. But just the other day, as I was riding with him, he was more dependent on the GPS than the knowledge of his own streets. And the GPS did not have a stop sign where there was a stop sign in reality. And what does that mean? A lot of us, because we're not just traveling in our own lane, but we don't know where the stop signs are, we're on the way into an intersection where there could be an accident. And one of the things I've been practicing myself, because I want to drink my water and mind my business or pay attention to what I'm supposed to pay attention to, is that I have to accept the fact that I, and along with many other people, may have a myopic point of life. Myopic means that you lack imagination, or you're short-sighted or nearsighted, and you can't see the forest for the trees. You don't have vision. The Bible says that we will perish for a lack of what? Knowledge, but it also says our people shall perish for a lack of vision. When you don't have vision, it's because you are distracted by other things outside of your own perspective. And the greatest perspective is seeing what Dr. T said, the peace that is in you. When she said the peace is a person, I also believe the peace is a place. I remember going to church and hearing someone say, there's peace in the valley, bright as a morning star. Y'all heard that song before, right? It's peace in the low places of your life, because that's when you can only find out who you are. And so when you are going through life and you're in that place of peace, open up your imagination, because if you're at a low point, everything is up from here. And that's why I spend a lot of times in my morning exercises of meditation, prayer, reading. I do what I call mirror time. I used to wonder, Dr. Jacquie, and I'm almost done. So you made me start preaching, so I'm almost done. I'll call for the benediction in a moment. I wonder why women would go to the bathroom in pairs. I never seen men say, hey, man, you want to go to the bathroom with me? But I always seen women going to the bathroom together. And I said, what's in the bathroom? You know what it is? A mirror. And it's because women go in there and they kind of have conversations about how the date is going, how the evening is going. They fix their crown, they fix their face, or they deal with everything in the bathroom. So when they come back out to the world, they're ready for the world. Men, we're going there and come right back out, didn't change anything. And so as a man, I need to have mirror time with what I'm trying to change about Aaron. What am I trying to fix about Aaron? Because as I go through my day, I'm facing the world. And if I got my best face moving forward, even if I fix my crown, then I know I have peace in the valley.
So I know we were all over here giving you 3 snaps and around the world. I'm going to bring Katrina Smith in because we've about ready to pass the collection plate on that. Bishop, that'll preach, sir. I mean, literally, you have reached our audience and all of us here today on levels where we really need to hone in to where we are and to who we belong to. We know whose we are, and that is so important. Rem Smith. Yeah, y'all didn't know that about her. So yeah, I'm putting her on blast right now. Listen, you know, Bishop is so right about how we get to where we need to, but we can't go without him. Help the people understand how to move life forward so that they're moving in their own time, in their own space, in their own place that's comfortable for them. Because sometimes we run in somebody else's race and not our own.
So, you know, there's a scripture that says the race is not given, but we're not going to preach that right here today. Some of us need to realize, your mama used to tell you, we don't do what the Jones do. If so-and-so jump off a bridge, you going to jump off a bridge? This is more about you finding your lane, you being in relationship, right? Taking that time out to be in relationship so that you can hear from him and know the path that he has for you. Dr. T said, you know, we don't yield to our own understanding. We shouldn't do that. His way should be our way. And so we need to have a relationship where we can sit still, we can hear from him, and we can move in the direction that he has called us to move. We need to be still sometimes. Sometimes we get busy just being busy. We happy being busy. We need to be still and be one with him. We need to know that he directs our path, he leads us, and he guides us. And we must be okay that what he has for us is not what he has for someone else. You know, as we raise children, we tell our children that I did this, and your kid will say, well, you let so-and-so do it. That must be your favorite. And sometimes, being the parent that you are, you might say, you're right, I did. But as a parent, you know what's best for your child. You know what's best for each of your children. And each child takes something different. That's the same way he is. He knows each of us. He knows what each of us needs. He knows what to pour into each of us. And he knows the path that is right for us and the direction we should take. So, you know, I'm going to back off because I don't want to get on fire here. But we have to be steadfast in our relationship. And we have to be okay with doing what he has called us to do and not what he has given someone else to do.
I think that's a great way. Come on in, family. Let's everybody come on, y'all. It's family meeting time here on A Balanced Life. And I say that because I'd like for each of you to share. You mentioned the word steadfast, Dr. Tierney, Dr. Sherry, all y'all come in for a second because we haven't done this in a while. So let's tell our audience one thing they should be steadfast in. Think about that for a moment. I'm going to talk for a second to give you time to collect your words, because I think that there are times that our audience looks for us for direction. Like, oh, this is what they said we should do. And we've heard a lot of things. So how do we put it all together? So I'm going to start with Dr. Sherry. What should people be steadfast in? Steadfast with or steadfast by?
Yes. So there's 3 elements, but it's one thing. And that is pursuing peace, choosing clarity, and living courageously. Pursuing peace, choosing clarity, and living courageously. And as has already been shared, pursuing peace is pursuing him. Ephesians 2:14 says he is our peace. Choosing clarity. Clarity only comes from wisdom, and wisdom is in the Word of God. And so we have to live, love, and learn the Word of God. And living courageously, courage comes from our power. And the only power we really have is from the Holy Spirit. And so when we pursue peace, we are guaranteed clarity. And when we bring peace and clarity together, we always have the courage to do what's called to do or to be still when we need to be still. And so the one thing has 3 elements: pursue peace, choose clarity, and live courageously.
Dr. Bishop.
Yes. I got to tell you that I think we need to continue to speak power into our own lives. You ever found yourself being a counselor to somebody else, but you never counseled yourself? I mean, I'm one of those people, I tell myself, come on, Aaron, get up, go be great. Come on, Aaron, get up and do what you need to do now. Don't procrastinate. Those kind of self-help talks will combat the self-defeat talk. And so I think we need to do more of understanding that we do have that power, right? That power that is in our tongue. And yes, I am a man who has the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. And that Holy Spirit lets me know that I'm in my right path, right? And when I go into that bag of listening to that Holy Spirit, no weapon formed against me shall be able to prosper. And it also says, and every tongue that rises up against me shall be condemned, even the one that I possess. And so I have to make sure that I keep that other tongue, that one that tells me I am not enough, I can't do it. I have to keep that on the sideline and put the powerful tongue that gives me strength back in the game. And that's part of the practice and the routine that I must do daily. And it's called what? Words of affirmation. We need to be steadfast in that, getting up, having that mirror time where we will speak life into ourselves, because everything outside of your home, everything outside of your daily routine is going to try to defeat you. And don't be part of that team, because we only play home games.
I heard that we only play home games. Dr. Tierney.
So I'm gonna take a little bit of a pivot here and say we need to be steadfast in our obedience. A lot of times we don't have peace because we out here being disobedient. We out here doing what we want to do and expecting God to just bless our plan. No, sugar, don't work that way. And to be clear, just because we being obedient don't mean we always gonna have peace. Because again, I just said God would take you from point A to point 17 to point 77. I mean, but understand that when we're being obedient, when we are steadfast in our obedience and we're doing what we are being told to do, what we've been guided to do, what we've prayed and fasted, and we know we heard down in our shanana what we're supposed to do, you can rest assured that whatever the discomfort that we're experiencing, whatever that lack of peace that we have, it's because it's pruning something out of us. It's working something within us. And so ultimately we will have that peace that surpasses our understanding when we are walking in obedience. Obedience is better than sacrifice. So making sure that we are steadfast in our obedience will go a long way in protecting your peace.
Katrina Smith.
So I would say be steadfast in your character. I grew up when my grandma would tell you, your character will take you places and your name will be called in rooms that you may never enter. So you be steadfast. You don't ever let someone take you out of character. Don't make somebody make you go there. You don't need to take everybody down there. You be steadfast in your character, and that will hold you.
Look, all I can say is, whoo child, we'll be back after the break. Let me just say, there's some things in life that you may want to do, but there may come a time when you realize you need to date yourself. When we're back after the break, let's talk about how do you build a relationship with you. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, there are a lot of ways in which life can go seemingly wrong, but there are also so many ways that life can bring us joy, peace, and fulfillment. And some of it comes from being able to date yourself. I know that sounds strange because you don't like your own company. You don't want to go and look at people staring because you're at lunch by yourself. But I want to talk about that. Let's have a family conversation about how do you get in touch with who you are as an individual and as a person. And I'm going to start with Dr. Bishop, because I think it's important, not only for men, for women, for young people, Bishop, is how do you date yourself? I mean, because you can't just always be around people all the time, because the spirit of togetherness can get to be too much.
You know, getting to know yourself is a moment of now, right? And I always tell people now is an acronym of no opportunity wasted. When you're spending time getting to know yourself, you'll have that mirror time. And the more you get closer to the mirror, the more you get closer to yourself. So that moment of reflection, that moment of understanding, you actually finally see who you are and who you were created to be. And it's nothing that should be altered because it's right in your face. But let me go a little deeper into what that looks like. And one of the chapters in my book, which is called For Such a Time as This, and it talks about the urgency of now, it's about alignment, right? When you have this clear understanding of the three houses, which is your mind, your spirit, and your soul, right? And that alignment helps you be in a place where you are steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. You know who you are. It's really a clear example of you need to really evaluate how you think. That's your mind. You really need to evaluate how you feel, which is your soul, right? And then the way you act is the spirit of who you are. And when you have that alignment and it's not out of line, you won't be out of the line. You won't be out of who people expect you to be. And so that's that obedience, right? Obedience is better than sacrifice. Don't sacrifice so many relationships and burn so many bridges because you haven't been obedient to the alignment of who God has called you to be. And so when you have that moment of reflection, that moment to really find out who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be here? And what is my existence for? You can finally see that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to do just that, right? And that's the compartmentalization of your responsibility, your roles, and your opportunities, that you can make sure you have the maximum impact in people's lives because you are there on purpose. You're not there on accident, right? And that's why a lot of people are living an excuse-driven life instead of a purpose-driven life. You know, the excuse-driven person always says, I can't find out what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. No, you know who you are supposed to be doing. And stop living in the pity party and start going towards purpose so you can know that you are doing what God has called you to do. My mother gave me one of the favorite scriptures that I can always recite. And I'm not just a mama's boy. I'm just somebody who was raised by a good mother, okay? She said that the scripture tells you that we are the marvelous work of the Lord, and it's marvelous in his sight. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. When you get to that acceptance, you'll do something on purpose every day of your life.
I like that. Doing something on purpose every day of your life. Dr. Tierney, what do you have to say about that? How do you date yourself? And what are some ways that people can actually begin to date themselves, to get to know themselves better? Yeah.
I guess the first thing to know is that this is introspective work. So if we're talking about dating ourselves from the standpoint of protecting our peace, there was actually, let me say this, there was actually a post that was making its rounds on social media here recently where there was a therapist saying that if you have to protect your peace, then you really don't have peace. You don't have it. And to a degree, I agree with what this therapist was saying. And basically is that if we are outsourcing our peace to strategies or people having to behave a certain way or things having to go well in order for us to have peace, then that's not really peace. That's fake peace. The peace is supposed to come from within us. But I want to give a caveat, to that, in the sense that we do still have to protect our peace, that peace that we have. First, from a spiritual standpoint, that's why the Bible tells us that the enemy is like a roaring lion. He just walks around seeking who he can steal, kill, and destroy. it wouldn't tell us that if there wasn't something that we needed to ward against. Think about it like a house. Yes, you own that house, but you still have to lock that door, and so you can have something, you can own it, but you still have to make sure that you protect it. Okay. Now, if everything about your peace is only from that protection point, then it's not really peace because it's not coming from within you. However, there are measures that we still have to take in order to protect that. I say all of that because sometimes we will hear snippets of something or a piece of something that someone may say on social media that we haven't really digested that thing to see how it works for us, how it works within us. So when we spend that time with ourselves, when we spend that time looking at our own lives, how our own lives are set up, what works for us, what does not work for us, then we won't have the understanding or the wisdom or the knowledge to know what measures we need to put in place or what measures don't work for us. So taking that time to really date yourself, I'm wanting to make sure that people understand this isn't about like going to a fancy restaurant or just like date in that sense. It's about spending time with you so that when you see something on social media, when, something happens unexpected, you won't automatically just give away your peace. You will know what locks to put on your doors so that you'll understand, no, as for me and my house, this is what we do. This is what I need to do. This is how I make sure that I'm managing my peace. And the only way that we know that is if we're taking that time to sit with ourselves long enough, to actually have conversations with ourselves, to get with our coach or our therapist, to have a deeper understanding of ourselves, to get in front of the person who I said is peace, get in front of Jesus, get in your quiet place, to let him actually depart something within you. All of that is dating yourself, and to make sure that we understand that, yes, that peace that is internally generated is something that we have to do the work for ourselves, but making sure that you still got that lock on that door to protect what it is that God has given you.
I'm here for all of that because really and truly, you have to hold on to it once you find it because peace can be elusive at times. Katrina Smith, tell us a little bit about that. How do you hold on to peace once you've found that peace, and how valuable is that in your life, in this space of being able to date yourself and be comfortable out in public on your own and not care what other people think?
Once you find that peace, it's nothing like it. You do have to have a level of comfortability. You have to be okay with yourself. And like what Dr. T said, I personally take time to meditate, to journal, because I have to be okay with myself. And for me, that's dating myself, taking an opportunity every day to be quiet, to be still, to be okay with my thoughts. It's everyone. Therapy, coach, find what works for you so that you can gain that peace. And once you gain that peace, it is something that you must continually work at. You must continually strive to maintain that peace in your life. So I recommend the journaling, the meditating, a trusted individual, a coach, maybe therapy. It depends on you, but you must seek it. And once you seek it and find it, you must continually practice it.
Continually practice it. Y'all getting into the deep end of the pool now because, we don't have the discipline that's necessary and required, to do what you said, Katrina. And so where does discipline come from? I know where it comes from, but how do you get it and stabilize it and sustain it?
That's not an easy fix or easy feat for anyone to sustain discipline. It is something that you work on a continual basis, right? I would love to say I'm the most disciplined person. I'm sure some of the viewers out there, you've been on 25 diets and, you keep changing, right? That's a great example. But when you become committed, when you decide that I am going to walk this path and this journey, and I will let nothing stand in my way, my path, nothing will hinder me from what I'm supposed to do, that is where the discipline comes in. You know, there's a thing out there. I used to do it with my students, 21 days, right? Give yourself 21 days and stick to it and see what God would do. 21 days. Commit to yourself for 21 days. I am going to listen and hear the word and do what he's called me to do and be disciplined in the things that he has chosen for me. Do it for 21 days and see what he'll do for you.
I want to invite Sherry in on that because, Sherry, do you calendar yourself?
Do I calendar myself?
Yes. Isn't that a part of dating yourself? Like, do you schedule time with Sherry?
Yes, I absolutely do. I schedule time for lunch. I schedule time to pray. I schedule time, thinking time, because we're not really thinking. We're just rehashing old thoughts. And I'm going to be honest, I really schedule time to love on myself because as we all know on this call, the great commandment is to love God with all your heart and to love others as you love yourself. And the part we get out of order is we go God, we go others, and then we go us. When is the last time you said, I love you to a loved one? When is the last time you said, I love you to yourself? And so as Dr. Aaron has said about the mirror, we got to be intentional about getting in that mirror and saying, I love you to yourself. And so a part of me loving me, I have on my calendar those times that is Sherry time, is my time to spend with me doing what I want to do. And as I said in the beginning, most of the time that centers around reminding myself why I love myself, telling myself I love myself, being intentional about that, and then laughing. I have my best friend in the whole wide world is hilarious. And so I call her with the intention of knowing we are going to laugh. We have crying sessions together. We have praying sessions together, but we also laugh together. And so absolutely, I slot in. If you looked at my schedule right now, you will see the different colors because I have to be very intentional about making sure that I commit that time to me, that I commit that time to say, I love you, and be intentional about my laughter.
I love that. So family, let's do this for our audience as we prepare to round out this last time that we have together. Everybody come in and just tell the audience one thing you love about yourself. I love me because, and I think that's important as our viewers are watching in these times that we're in, that they find themselves again. And maybe that will be their launching point to not only finding their peace, but protecting their peace. Bishop.
Well, again, you know, if you look at the dating of yourself, one of the things that you can understand about the mirror exercise, and I'm going to answer your question, is that every perfect mirror that we can see ourselves in has a percentage of distortion. It's not the reality of who you are. It's a small percentage of who you really aren't. And so there are things in life that I'm proud of who I am. I love who I am, but I do have to understand there are things that I still have to work on. And that's the part that I love about me. I'm always a work in progress.
I love that. Katrina.
You know, I was going to be serious, but I think one of the things I love about me is I love my personality and my zest for living.
All right now, Dr. T.
I love my versatility. I was just talking to a friend and we just got tickets to the Beyonce concert. Yes, Cowboy Carter, I am excited. But literally the 2 weeks after that, we are going to Sarah Jakes Roberts' Woman Evolve. And so I was telling her, you know, 1 minute we can, you know, go and cut up and pop, and then the next minute we're gonna be praising the Lord. And so I love that I'm versatile in that way. I'm not just one or the other. I'm very versatile.
I love that. Dr. Sherry.
I love that I'm anointed to listen. I hear what people say and I hear what they don't say. But most importantly, I hear from the Holy Spirit in a way that I'm obedient to then act. And so I love that about me. I love that I'm anointed to listen.
I love everything that you all have said, which is why I love all of you individually and all your differences. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can see, this day has been full. I hope that you have taken something away to put in your balanced living toolkit that allows you to not only find your peace, but to protect your peace, while at the same time giving yourself grace to love on you a little bit more. We all need that in our lives. Thank you all for watching. Bye now.